All right, AP Calculus. Today we are here to talk about one last topic in this chapter, and that is curve sketching. So what we're going to do is put all our information about f double prime together to help us draw a graph of our original function. Very exciting. Okay, so I'm going to give a couple examples here, one where you have a table and one where you have a graph. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to tell you that f of 0 is 0, f of 10 is 2. You have a continuous function, and they have this information about the derivatives. And what we're trying to do is sketch a graph of the function from 0 to 10. Okay, now a couple things. One is we have a starting point. So first thing you're going to do is have a starting point. Somewhere you're going to begin your graph, a point you're going to go through. And in this case, those starting points are right here. You have the point 0, 0, and you also have the point 10, 2. So let's just go ahead and do those. So 0, 0, and then 10, 2. And I need to make sure that my graph I make goes through those points. Okay. The way you want to approach this is to go through the different intervals of this graph. So we have one interval from 0 to 4. So we have 0 to 4. And then we have another interval from 4 to 10. And on each interval, you want to think about whether you're increasing or decreasing and then concave up or concave down. And that's going to help you kind of draw your pictures because you're basically going to build a graph out of 4 pieces. If you are, well, let's sketch this out. You could be concave up or concave down. If you're concave up and increasing, it looks like that. If you're concave up and decreasing, it looks like that. If you're concave down and increasing, it looks like that. Concave down and decreasing, it looks like that. Those are the 4 kind of building blocks that we're going to be putting together based on the first and second derivatives. Okay, so on 0 to 4, they told me the first derivative is positive. So my first derivative is positive. So that means that f is going to be increasing. And again, I'm trying to sketch a graph of f. Also, it tells you that the second derivative is positive, so that tells me f is concave up. So I want to draw from 0 to 4 something that's increasing and concave up. Okay, so increasing concave up, I don't know, maybe it looks something like that. And this is just an estimate, right? It's totally possible. Maybe your graph doesn't go up that high. Maybe it goes like that. Maybe your graph goes up higher and goes like that. That's not super important. The important parts are that your function's increasing and that your function's concave up. The actual height doesn't really matter. Okay, now let's look at 4 to 10. Well, looking in the table from 4 to 10 here, let's switch colors actually. That tells me that my first derivative is negative, so f is decreasing. It tells me my second derivative is positive, which means f is concave up. So I'm going to be decreasing and concave up. Now, I know I'm going to get to that purple, from the purple point to the red point, so I'm decreasing concave up. It should look something like that. Okay, so that's the general process by which we're following there. That's how you do these problems. Break it down into intervals and go from there. Okay, so now let's go a step further. So this is a problem where I'm going to give you a graph of f prime. So we love these problems. This is an f prime graph. And we're going to try and use that f prime graph to draw a graph of f. Oh, one thing I wanted to point out was what was happening between the points, right? So at 4, it tells you the derivatives are undefined. And that's what we see. It's making a sharp corner there. And that's what that looks like. Okay, don't worry too much about the 0 and 10 so much, but just that's what's going on at 4. You have an undefined derivative at that sharp corner. Okay, sorry, let's go back to this problem. So, all right, here's a graph. You have a starting condition. I'm going to write that in right now, negative 2, 2. And I'm asking you to draw a graph of f of x. Okay, now I kind of break this into 4 different cases here. We have the first case. Well, we know when we're above the axis, that's when my f prime is positive. When we're below the axis, that's when my f prime is negative. And then, of course, my f double prime, as always, is the slope of f prime. So when I break this into intervals, I want to see where is either my f prime changing or where's my f double prime changing. Okay, so here's my first section. And then here's my next section, because now my f prime is negative. So there's my second interval from negative 1 to 0. And then I have another interval here from 0 to 1, where now my second derivative is negative. And then 1 to 3, again, I'm below the axis and looking something like that. Okay, so I've split it into 4 different regions. I probably should use a different color there. I've split it into 4 different regions, kind of based on where my first and second derivatives are changing sign. So again, we have negative 2 to negative 1. We have negative 1 to 0. We have 0 to 1. And then we have this line segment there. So I see 4 different sections where things are happening, and those are my 4 intervals. Now, within each one, you want to ask yourself, is f prime positive or negative? And you're going to ask yourself, is f double prime positive or negative? And we're going to use that to draw a graph. Okay, let's go from -2 to -1. I'm above the axis, so my f prime is positive, so I'm going to be increasing. I have a negative slope, so my second derivative is negative because my f prime slope is negative there. That's the f double prime. So if my second derivative is negative there, I'm going to be concave down. So I'm not going to try and draw this whole graph at once. I'm just going to say, okay, what's happening from -2 to -1? I'm increasing concave down, so that looks something like that. Okay? Now let's go to the next interval, -1 to 0. Well, now I'm below the axis, and actually below the axis for the rest of the graph. So my f prime is negative because my height and my f prime height is negative. So that tells me that I'm going to be decreasing. And furthermore, I still have a negative slope, right? I still have a negative slope there. So my f double prime, my slope of f prime is negative. So I'm going to be concave down still. So decreasing and concave down, so that's kind of the opposite, something like that. Okay, now what's happening from 0 to 1? Well, there you go from 0 to 1. I'm still under the axis, so I'm still decreasing. But now I have a positive slope. Things are looking upward again. So I'm decreasing, but my positive slope there means that I'm going to be concave up. Okay, so again, I'm just going to draw the section from 0 to 1 now. I'm decreasing, but concave up. So 0 to 1, I'm decreasing, but concave up, so maybe something like that. And again, maybe you went down a little further, maybe you didn't. That's okay. It really doesn't matter too much in that case. Okay, now from 1 to 3, that's the rest of the graph, that's the section right here. So from 1 to 3, I'm still under the axis, so I'm going to be decreasing. But now again, I have a negative slope, so I'm going to be concave down. So I'm decreasing and concave down from 1 to 3, so that would look something like that. And again, who knows how far down I'm going. Maybe you went down a little further, maybe a little less far, but that's the general process. So look how I did that again. I'm going one interval by interval. The key, though, was breaking into those 4 parts at the start. And then within each one, ask, are we increasing or decreasing here? Or are we concave up or concave down here? And then use those 4 building blocks, right? It looks like that, it looks like that, it looks like that, or it looks like that on every single interval. So those are the building blocks that you're going to have. Okay, so that's how you do curve sketching. I'm going to give you one to try, and then let's talk about this in class. So here's a graph of f prime. I'm telling you f of -6 is 0. That's your starting point that you're always going to have. Go ahead and give this a shot, and we'll talk about this in class. Bring you some questions in class on how to sketch some graphs, and I'll see you guys soon.